Okay, we are up at York Haven, and I somehow found a better camera angle so you can see both me and my wife. A train just went through while we were driving up here, so there will probably not be another one for a bit. Signals are all red.
Mm-hmm.
And today is the first Friday in Lent, so we've got these. What are you doing?
Taking the water off the windshield.
Oh yeah, we put the bags up on the windshield and it got hot. This is a Filet-O-Fish from McDonald's. And the Filet-O-Fish was invented for people like us, Catholics. Well, I'm serious. That's why they invented it, because
Yep. Filet-O-Fish.
today, Catholics are not allowed to eat meat on Fridays during Lent. If you talk to certain people, they will say, you can't eat meat on Fridays ever. But the U.S. bishops have said that you can eat meat on Fridays ever. So now we have these Filet-O-Fishes for dinner tonight.
Oh, must explain. Because fish is an exception from being meat.
Fish is an exception from being meat. I'm not entirely sure why it is. I think it's because meat used to be a bigger luxury back then than it was now.
And fish was a regularity and a commonplace staple.
Mm-hmm.
And alligator is also an exception because they consider that a fish.
Yeah, the Archbishop of New Orleans actually did say that alligator is an exception to the rule and you can eat alligator on Fridays in Lent. Can you get us some?
I could try.
We're in Pennsylvania, so there's not as many alligators here as there are in other places. Which brings us to the topic of this video, Lent. Now, before we get started, you should know I am a cradle Catholic, and I've been practicing since 2011, and you are...
I am a convert. I converted in 2019.
And then we got married like 2 months after you converted.
Yeah. Some people would say, oh, it's because your husband's Catholic. No, it's I agreed with everything.
So,
Just felt right.
Lent is one of the liturgical seasons. We have a calendar split up into different seasons. Christmas is one. Advent leading up to Christmas is a season. There's Easter, which lasts for a while after Easter Day, and most of the year is just ordinary time.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's Coke. My parents never let me drink Coke growing up. Lent is the liturgical season that lasts for the 40 days leading up to Easter. And Lent is supposed to be a time where you kind of self-reflect in a certain way and try and grow closer to Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
It started on Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, which is when you go and get ashes rubbed on your forehead.
Which happens to be the day after Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is also Fat Tuesday. So you eat everything you can because Ash Wednesday you have to fast.
Uh-huh. Well, we forgot it was Ash Wednesday.
Yeah. Oops. Which it's what? 2 snacks and a half meal?
You're supposed to fast. That means you can eat one meal that's normal sized, and you can have 2 snacks in that day that both put together don't equal the regular meal.
However, there's some people that take it to an extreme where they don't eat anything at all until nightfall.
Yeah, basically kind of like Ramadan. Yeah, in my family, when we finally had dinner, that was a big event. We kind of bent the rules a little bit. We said, as long as you're still sitting at the table, that counts as one meal. Because even my parents, they're devout Catholics, but even they know that that's miserable.
Mm-hmm. Well, and dealing with kids during that's hard.
Uh-huh. Good Friday, the day when Jesus actually died, is the same rules.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why are we talking about Lent? Because I am autistic, and there are a lot of parts of Lent and the Catholic Church that I don't understand. Now, you probably know that you're supposed to give up something for Lent. Something like sugar, candy, coffee, stuff like that is something that most people do. And I've never really understood that. What I usually do is I try and do...
Plane.
Airplane? Oh, that is
Big plane.
It's a pretty low airplane.
Mm-hmm. They must be trying to get a aerial, like trying to get in a Harrisburg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do a landing.
You're getting good at this.
What?
knowing about plants.
Well, I'm not allowed to not know with you.
I never really I prefer to do a devotional in a way, like I'll pray a rosary every day, or I'll do some research every day. This year I'm researching a different saint every day and looking into stuff like that and how they can help. But
and that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, a lot of times people give up something during Lent, but you shouldn't look at it as something that's an obligation due to the fact of, oh, I got to give something up. No, if you feel that you can better yourself by praying a rosary, doing some sort of prayer, either daily or once a week or twice a week, the thing is having discipline to follow through with stuff, and that's part of what that is having the discipline to become stronger and closer with God. That's a lot of what that is. Instead of just, oh, it's so miserable because I gave up chocolate.
I did give up chocolate for Lent one year.
Yeah, and that can be helpful it can help break addictions for some people. Like, well, not per se addictions, but like, oh, I need to have chocolate every day, or I go nuts. Well, this helps break that.
Yeah, you can't give up stuff that you're not supposed to already be doing. My youth minister used to say, you can't give up punching your brother for Lent. Or you can't give up doing chores for Lent. But there are some people who seem to take Lent to an extreme and who actually actively enjoy Lent, and I've never understood these people. Like,
well, having a slight enjoyment for it at least can be helpful too. But fully enjoying it is a little confusing.
Yeah, and there's some people who would be like, oh, I love Lent, it's awesome. No, a more measured response would be something like, I know Lent isn't always fun, but it has its benefits. You'll go in church. I don't like Lent, it's not fun. And the response being, I've noticed Catholics give that response to a lot of stuff. Like if a kid says, I don't like going to church, I don't want to beat myself up for Lent. And then they claim that they don't do this. Have you seen this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you've been in the church for a lot less time than I have.
I have seen some of that.
About half of which time we couldn't go to church.
Yeah.
Now, do you know anyone who took Lent to a big extreme?
Not so much as you have. I mean, I know from stories that you've said about, but like, I've heard where some didn't eat any kind of meat for the entirety of Lent at all. And then they end up sick halfway through. Really sick for some people.
Occasionally, some people won't eat anything at all. They'll just drink beer, which monks actually used to do back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just completely cutting out a protein entirely is not good. That's why fish is a backup.
Now, in a sense, what some of these people are doing is they're just beating themselves up just for show.
Well, that or they're just that desperate to get that close to God, and it's not a good thing to be that extreme.
Now, I have not found the part in the Bible yet where it says, thou shalt beat thyself up.
Yeah, anyway.
That's probably in there right next to the holy hand grenade instructions. So, that's one thing I've never understood. And being autistic, it is hard for me to understand just what degree of anything you're supposed to do in the church, because there's a lot of variability. There's a billion Catholics around the world, and we're not gonna all agree on the same things.
No.
But sometimes people will act like I should have known everything all along. And there are more controversies in the church as in general than you think there are.
There's some people that are well into age and they were cradle Catholics and they still have no idea what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you just go to church and go through the motions, you're not really Catholic.
No, not really. You're just doing it because you're obligated.
Uh-huh.
Which, if you feel like you're obligated, that's not very good. You need to find something that inspires you. Like, maybe read up on The saint that you took as...
Your confirmation.
Yeah.
I took St. Michael for mine partially because I didn't want to argue with my parents about it. And
I originally had Elizabeth Ann Seton, but then I changed to St. Michael for other reasons.
You can get a saint as your confirmation name who's not your gender. But I like St. Michael. He's my favorite saint overall.
Well, and sometimes you might have a incident that might happen that you end up paired with a saint and you didn't realize it.
Your guardian angel.
Yeah. Because they look after you. Because they look at... Their job is to help you and look after you and guide you through this life until the end.
But the church is made up of people. And people are not perfect. And people like to make fun of other people sometimes. For example, if you're Catholic, you'll probably know this. But if you're not, you won't. It is controversial to go to Mass in English. And it's controversial for some people that you're allowed to go to Mass in any language that's not Latin. I didn't figure this out until I was in college. And up until that point, I'd known that you can go to a Latin Mass. I just thought it was like you can go to a Mass in Spanish or in Japanese if you find one. Or in Vietnamese. St. Joe's actually has a Vietnamese Mass. Mm-hmm. I never knew that some people think that because you can go to Mass in English that it's not valid and the Pope is a heretic and you can't and you shouldn't trust them. And there are more people who believe this than I thought there ever were. Now, but that's something that a lot of people just knew and I didn't just know.
It's because you're always in the dark about things and it don't just click for you. Mm-hmm. That's your autism. You're not able to see and understand things that aren't said directly to you.
Exactly.
Like I've had to point things out and explain to you what's going on now. Since I'm around, you seem to be more up to par and up to date on things.
Well, yeah, you help me with a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, because I'll notice that kind of stuff. You just can't because you see black and white. If it's not plainly said to you, you might not get it.
Now, I went to Catholic school from 1st to 5th grade. It did not go well, and I can't recommend putting your kids in Catholic school.
I would say it might not be a good idea, especially with someone like you.
Well, my parents didn't know I was autistic until...
No, well, in that time, it was harder to find. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have a lot more resources to see it better now. You just were in a bad time because it was harder to find.
Mm-hmm. Then I went to the local public high school from 6th grade through 12th grade, and I met her there. And then after that, we got a lot of people who came and talked to us. Oh, and by the way, you guys are going to claim that this stuff never happened. It happened. Bigger car goes by. Now, once I was in my senior year of high school and we started talking about college, people would say things like, you can go to any college you want. Excuse me. As long as it's Steubenville, Mount St. Mary's, or St. Vincent's. Which are the 3 closest, biggest Catholic colleges that people go to. And if you don't go to one of these colleges, you need to go to the Newman Center at your local college and become the president there and do every single thing they have there and go to Mass 3 times a day, or you're going to start partying too much and lose your faith. And then I did go to a very much non-Catholic college. By the way, you can look up why President Gee was fired from Ohio State. Do it sometime. What, you know about that?
Yeah, you told me.
I'll leave that up to you guys. And I went there, and I didn't really go to that many parties. Like, I went to a full-on college party maybe once a semester or so. Some nights I'd meet up with my friends to have a beer or two. But I didn't really party that much.
I
like
think
everyone
the best
said.
you partied was when you graduated and we bar hopped with you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was fun. Now, I got to the Newman Center there, and people were a lot more judgmental than I thought they would be because I didn't understand a lot of stuff.
Well, in our home parish is a lot more open and accepting of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes from the Franciscan beliefs.
Yeah, they are more liberal than people in other churches.
Yeah. They're more open, more accepting. They want everyone to be around. They're just wonderful.
Mm. And by the way, one reason you may not fit in with a group of people is if you're autistic and you do have trouble fitting in with any group of people, not just Catholic people. Another thing that I didn't know was how seriously you were supposed to look at being a priest. Because every day, or not every day, but every so often growing up, they would come and ask us, do you want to be a priest? And if you said no, they would go, yeah, and people are going to claim they didn't act like that. You guys acted like that. Are you okay?
Funny.
And I never wanted to be a priest. And in other churches, if you're married, you can be a priest or a pastor or some leader there. But in our church, you cannot. And we've been married for about 2.5 years now, so I don't think I'm ever going to become a priest. Mm-hmm. And up until...
You can be a deacon, though.
Yes, you can be a deacon, but I don't want to do that either.
It's not your calling.
And sometimes at events, they would ask everyone to come up forward if they had ever thought of becoming a priest or were considering it. And if you didn't go up for that, sometimes you get looked at funny, or you get people going, hey, I noticed you didn't go up to the vocation call. Why are you so evil? And then I got engaged, and that all stopped. I noticed like a week later, wait a minute, no one's trying to pressure me to become a priest anymore. But anyway,
Next, didn't you have once you were somewhere and they were asking if you wanted to become a priest and you were like, I'm engaged, and then they stopped?
No, that didn't happen. What happened is everyone at Newman heard pretty quickly that I got engaged, and they just stopped on their own. Oh, if you don't know what Newman is, it's a Newman Center, like a Catholic student center on your campus, which named after Blessed John Henry Newman, who did a lot of stuff like that. Now that's everything I had to say about the Catholic Church in general. Do you have anything to add, dear?
I don't think so. Oh, the different dioceses you were saying?
Oh, yeah. One thing that I can't understand yet is just how the church is organized. Now, most other churches, they're organized kind of like a company is, where you'll have a church with a pastor in charge of it, and then you'll have some group of churches, and then above that, a bigger group of churches, up and up and up until you get to the headquarters. Now, within the Catholic Church, you have your parish, which may just have one priest who's the pastor. Ours has 3. Mm-hmm. One of whom is in charge of everything. And then above us, there's the Diocese of Harrisburg. A diocese is just a geographical area that people are responsible for, and it's the responsibility of a bishop. Then above that, you have cardinals, who are also bishops, but like better bishops. And then above them, you have the Pope. But I never quite understood how it worked, because like, you can be a priest through your diocese and they'll put you at a church in the diocese, or you could be a priest at a religious order somewhere, like ours is the Franciscans, who are a group of priests who just happen to like St. Francis a lot. Mm-hmm. And you can also be a priest there, and they can put you anywhere. Then there's sisters. You might call them nuns, but the proper term is sisters. And they just belong to different orders, and I don't know how they work and how they go anywhere. And it is kind of tough for me to wrap my little autistic brain around.
Well, I noticed some of their stuff's a little more secretive sometimes. Like, it's not as out there, at least.
It is out there. They'll let you know if you ask them. Mm-hmm.
Well, and
No.
there's the Benedictines, too.
Yeah, the Benedictines are an order. My Newman Center used to be a Benedictine church, but the previous bishop, before the one they have now, kicked them out when they started asking questions. Questions like, Mr. Bishop, sir, why are you spending so much money on booze and private jets?
Yeah, when they needed windows.
Mm-hmm. The current bishop of West Virginia is one who we know a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
He was at our wedding. He married my parents.
And baptized you.
He did. Back then, he wasn't a bishop. He was just a priest at a church in Maryland. But he's a lot better than the last guy. The last guy actually
He's a good family friend for your family.
The last guy who was the bishop got kicked out of the church. Well, it's really hard to get kicked out of the church.
It's because he was doing things that were not right.
Yeah.
And no, it was not hurting kids.
Yes, it was.
Well, he was stealing money. That was the primary problem.
He was stealing money and touching people inappropriately.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think that'll be a good stopping point. That's my rambling about Lent and about Catholics. Thank you.